This is the Retroid Pocket Flip. This is the new handheld device by Retroid that is very similar to the Retroid Pocket 3 Plus in terms of specs, but it is a clamshell. And I'm going to go straight into this and say that usually when I do these videos, I'm kind of excited because I like the product and I want to show you what it can do. This is one where pretty much straight away my gut instinct was I do not love this device. I don't like saying that because I was actually really looking forward to this device. So much so that I bought a Nintendo DSi and a DSi XL, and I think those are so cool. And I go, one of the pluses to the Flip actually is it's very similar to the DSi in size. They're both very slim, very small, very pocketable. The only downside I'd say in that respect is this is kind of heavy. Like the DSi is so light, it feels so nimble. I can hold it between two fingers and still feel like that's not a problem. But the Flip is for two fingers, it's heavy. It's like 3DS XL heavy, which is surprising. I didn't expect it to be that heavy. But yeah, why don't I love this? So usually I have a gut instinct. I grab something and I go, oh, I like that. That's how I felt with the 3 Plus. I felt very much like, pretty much like that. The Flip, not so much. And if you know specs wise, it can do what this can do. So if I want to play up to PlayStation 2 on here, including PlayStation 2, I can definitely do that. I can put in the time, I can download the emulators, the games, configure them a bit, and actually start playing some games portably that are like usually quite hard to play. That's really cool. But the biggest problem for me about this device is the build quality. I'll tell you some things I like off the bat, and it's all up here. It's the L and R1 buttons, the shoulder buttons, which are actual analog now. They have travel. So you want to play some driving games, that feels very good. The L1 and R1 are quite clicky and have like a curve to them. So while you're holding this, you feel like you can use a lot of your finger to touch them rather than like just push down, which is great. Similar feeling to the shoulder button here as well. Going around the device, I'll say I don't like where the power button is. It's not a big issue, but it's there and it annoys me for some reason. The volume buttons are here. That's not a big problem either, but I know people do not like buttons on the sides of their devices. But you see all this real estate here, so much space to put buttons, and one of the buttons this device really feels like it needs because of the design is a home button, and it does not have one. There are a lot of games you play and you wish there was a home button to go back and it's not there. Alternatively, you do have these additional macro buttons here. There's two either side, and you can program those however you like in the emulators, which is great. So I tend to put that as a fast forward button, and this is a home button to go back to the emulators home. Fantastic, that's really great. But the actual, all of this, okay, so first off, sliders. I actually like sliders, and these feel like good sliders. If I'm going to play a 3D game in a camera, I feel like those are very... they got nice movement to them. It feels really good. But then the rest of it I don't particularly like. So the start and select's down here. I find that really annoying to move my thumb that far away to press start and select. Don't know why they couldn't be up here, anywhere here. You see all this space? Do something with it, please. The D-pad is... it should be a good D-pad, but I'll tell you what the thing is. There isn't much of a pivot here at the middle. And when you push down on the different directions, they feel kind of tough. And I'll describe this with the Mayu Mini Plus, which I feel is kind of similar size D-pad and stuff. But when you use this, it's very fluid. It feels like it's got a good bounce to it. It's just nice, you know. I can play fighting games on that, and it works very well. Here, yeah, it will work well, but it feels stiff. It's kind of stiff, and that's even more problematic with the buttons here. Now these buttons should be similar to the Retroid Pocket 3 Plus. There is some travel to them, but they also feel a little stiff. And when you have your thumb over them, when you like roll between, so let's say I push down one button and I want to slide my thumb over to the X. It's like it's stopping me. It doesn't want me to roll my thumb over. So they just don't feel like, if I do this with the Retroid Pocket 3, now I know these are different buttons, but they are similar in feel to what the Retroid Pocket 3 button would be. I can slide between two buttons really easily, and same with the Mayu Mini Plus. I can slide between two buttons really easily. With the Flip, I am just sort of like battling to go over the buttons. And the next buttons you have, and these are nice additions, you push these in, there's L3 and R3 buttons. Now, I don't know if this will vary between builds, because they do sort of like manually build most of these, I think. I don't know, it's a small company, but the click to the right stick is a little bit stronger than the left. Almost feels like there's less click here, and there's no travel to that click. It just feel like sort of like poppy buttons, and I feel like I would have preferred a bit more travel in those buttons. They feel a bit odd to use. And yeah, dude, I'm just ranting. I also do not like the speakers down here. For some reason, it works a little bit better with the 3 Plus. I can't explain entirely why. I think it's just because this is just one flat thing, and your fingers don't usually go over where the speakers would be. It sounds decent enough, but with the Flip, I guess it's just because it's quite large, and what you're seeing, you expect the sound to be a little higher, and the way you hold it, you might have your fingers, because it's smaller, over the speakers. So I did like at times think to myself, why does this not sound as good? And it's just literally the placement of the speakers, just, I don't know, it just feels weird. And I guess that's pretty much my gripe with this whole device. It just feels a bit weird. It feels like it could do with another pass just to get it all. Oh, I haven't even got to the main problem yet. This is a huge problem. And this is why Nintendo makes clamshells, and they're good. This is why this needs more time. So this, okay, I hate that this is as far as it will go. I hate that. Even just like a little bit more, maybe another like 5-10 degrees, but it doesn't go completely flat. And that really bothers me, because I do like to have that angle a lot when I play games. So they do not give you that angle, but this is the biggest crime. So you're laying down, let's say you're laying down and you're playing the Flip. And when you're laying down, this is vertical. So this has already got some weight to it. And then you jolt it a bit, and it just keeps going down. There's no notches to this. It just keeps going down. That is really, really annoying. And if you are on a car ride or a train ride, for example, where it is going to get bumpy, it's probably going to keep doing that. So it's just flimsy. And over time, I really worry that is going to get weaker and weaker. Like, how stable is that going to be? I have no idea. But the fact that it doesn't have notches is a huge problem to me. So I figured before I did this video, I better play test this device for a little while. And I'm glad I did, because this is something I've not seen any other video really get into. And when people want a clamshell device, I feel like maybe they haven't thought about it much, because there was only really one company making clamshells, and that was Nintendo. And Nintendo did it right every time. But even this, so this is the DSi. So this is quite flimsy up until this point. That's where the Flip goes to. About that angle. Actually worse. This comes out a little further. But then here, it clicks. And this is the point where it's not going to like jump around or be weird. It's got a notch. And it gets better with the bigger devices, because they know when it gets bigger, you have to look after that a lot more. So Nintendo was just like the flagship of the clamshell. Only Nintendo did these. We had nothing else to compare them to. So now you have another company that has done a clamshell, and they just have not got that bit right. And I hate to say it, because I don't really like being negative about things, but that really bothers me. I want a clamshell. I was excited about this clamshell, and I feel like they've done it wrong. So do I want to keep using this device? No, I don't know. I think I'd much rather play the 3 Plus. This is just a beautiful, simple slab of a device. It functions perfectly. It's an amazing PSP machine. But when I want a clamshell, the reasons are that it's smaller, more pocketable, and I want it to function a certain way. So I feel like this has sort of failed, you know, and I just feel sad saying that. But I feel like maybe some of you might think I'm going a bit into this being a bit too heavy, but maybe some of you will agree and say, actually, that's a huge flaw, and I'm not really into that. So that's pretty much like all the design of this device. And whilst it's there, I better quickly get into the grip. This is the grip for the Flip. You can't use it on the Retroid Pocket 3, it's too small. So the difference in this grip is that the Retroid Pocket 3 grip had like a little flap here to kind of like hold the device in place. This doesn't. They have little standoffs here that kind of push into the screw holes of the Flip. So basically I grab it, I shove it down, shove it in, and it's gonna hold pretty decently. I feel like as a grip it's not bad actually. Feels quite nice to use, but because this comes out further, it goes further into your palm, so I feel like you really have to like push your thumbs all the way over to get to these, and I think over time that would annoy me. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I want the sliders maybe a little higher or somewhere down here. I'm not sure, but if I take the grip off, I did notice over time when I was playing with the sliders that I kind of would have liked my thumbs up here. So this is another thing about sliders is we're only used to having sliders like here, up high, where it's really like loose and normal to use. Something you don't really think about. Having a slider further down here, you feel like you have to exert your thumb just a little bit more. And I don't know if after say an hour of play, if I would still feel comfortable using them down here. It's hard to say really, but I do think as sliders go, they do feel good, so I can't complain about that. But boy, this this oh my god, that does bother me. So that is basically my review of the form factor, the design of the device. You can see that I get kind of like sweaty hands. So even though this is nice and black and the material does actually feel good and grippy, I suppose, it's not like smooth, like super smooth. It just feels good to hold. I'm gonna have to wipe this down now and then. So let's have an actual look at the performance of the device. I'm gonna flip it open and turn it on. So I've said before that the specs of this device is pretty much exactly the same as the Retroid Pocket 3 Plus. It's going to do basically the same thing. I have a bunch of videos on how to configure some emulators to get the best performance out of games for example, the GameCube and the PlayStation 2. This is quite a slow load up time actually. I kind of just noticed that. And this also has a new launcher, the Retroid launcher, which is very similar to kind of like how a Nintendo Switch looks. I'm not going to be looking into that. These devices are all about setting them up your own way, putting your own games on, emulators, etc. I use Pegasus. I use this theme that I customized myself. I've done a couple of videos on that. People ask me, what do I use? This is Pegasus with the Shin Retro theme, and mine was customized, and they added some of my additions to the Shin Retro theme, which was really cool. But for example, I can back out and I can pick another theme if I like. I can pick the Prospero OS theme, which is very similar to a PlayStation 5. So I really like Pegasus. The only downside as we move forward into the future and certain emulators get updated, for example, Drastic, which is the Nintendo DS emulator, got updated because of new Android version, and basically that made it less functional for a launcher. I think it also happened in Daijishu? I forgot what it's called. But yeah, I've basically set this up exactly the same as my Retroid Pocket 3 Plus. If you've seen any of my videos, you know this is how I use it. So I have different collections. I do apologize about the glare on the screen. I've tried some different settings. Sorry, that's a joke thing. It's Rosemary from Mario Galaxy, but I've tried some different settings, but I can't seem to stop some of this glare off the screen for some reason. But yeah, I've got all different consoles that I know will work on this. If I want to boot up Nintendo GameCube, and just so I don't run into any problems, I'll run Dolphin MMJR. There are different versions of Dolphin, MMJR2, MMJR3, Dolphin for handheld. I personally prefer MMJR, and it's one I've been used to using, and it works very well once you customize it a bit. So let's check out something like Wind Waker. I have all my settings and everything taken over from the Retroid Pocket 3 Plus. So here's Wind Waker in widescreen, running very decently. I'll hold it out a bit so you can see me using the sliders. So I do think the sliders are nice to use, and they sort of feel good with a Zelda game, because I think we're used to playing certain Zelda games with them. But after a while, I do think, if I played this for like 30 minutes to an hour, I think having my thumbs down here for these sliders would bother me a bit. I think they'd feel so much more comfortable up here, but when it comes to placement of things, you can't win everybody over. It's just that when it comes to sliders, the sliders are about resistance. You know, they need to be pushed and pulled around, and when you're doing with your thumb constantly somewhere you're not happy with, that can like start to bother you a bit. But you could do what I did with the Retroid Pocket 3, for example, where I just put the stick on the Dpad instead and use that to run around. But then I don't really like the Dpad on here. I think it's quite stiff, so I wouldn't enjoy that either. But yeah, Zelda's running nice. I want to have a look at another... Wait, can I do this with any buttons here? If I press select... No, I can't use my additional... I can't use my additional buttons. So that's annoying. I just really want a home button. I feel like I shouldn't be touching this screen, but I am. So let me play another Nintendo game. I want to pick something people don't usually pick when they look at... Like SSX3, for example. I'll load a state. And this is one that runs pretty well on MMJR. Has a few hiccups. I actually played a lot of this on the Retroid Pocket 3 Plus, and I think at the start of this track it can have a couple of problems, but once you get past it, it runs pretty smooth at 60 a lot. I just realized this game uses like licensed music. That's the problem. But already, because this is quite loud music, and I can already tell you my hands are slightly covering the speakers, and that's really annoying me because the speakers start to sound bad. And if I put this down, you know, the speakers are now just flat on the table and it's going to sound muffly. So yeah, not a massive fan of the speakers on the Flip. So yeah, I had a little look at some GameCube. I feel like when it comes to devices like this, people are absolutely more interested in some of the higher end. I would love to look at more 3DS. So Citra is getting new builds and updated with Vulkan in mind. But right now, the performance of that build isn't quite as good as the experimental builds that were going around. So I feel like I don't want to do a video on that yet. Games like Mario Kart 7 still aren't running as smoothly as when I tested them on that experimental Vulkan build. So I want to wait to do videos on those. Let's have a look at a PlayStation 2 game. I want to pick one that's like regular and not something I've done tweaks for. Resident Evil 4, and perfect. It's been out recently. Hang on, that shouldn't do that. I'm wondering if that's a weird new Aether SX2 thing, because I haven't actually used Aether SX2 in quite a while. Let me try that again. Okay, seems to be working now. Resident Evil 4 always has great performance in Aether SX2. It's been optimized very well. I should have a save state around here somewhere. And I think this is at 1x resolution. Oh. Oh god, his head's gone off though. Get off me. So, using the slider and aiming, I feel one of the things about this shoulder being curved is that I feel like I'm not stressing to hold that shoulder down. I can push that down quite easily with like any part of my finger, which makes like trying to aim certain weapons great. The slider feels really good for aiming actually. Oh, hello. I played Resident Evil 4 Remake recently. They're not as chill as these guys. I guess my only problem with a slider is, even though there's like the travel to do certain amounts of sensitivity, you do feel more like you just want to push to each direction faster than you would with a regular analog. So like doing fine aim movements feels difficult. That's kind of annoying, but that's just the nature of the slider, isn't it? Ooh, wait, is there a delay there? That seems weird. I don't know if I'm tripping out or not. Is that normal? If you look at my thumb and then you look at the gun, they're not in sync. Nah, maybe I'm tripping out. Maybe that's normal. I don't want to criticize something that doesn't exist. Ooh, these diagonals though. That doesn't feel... I don't know. Maybe I can tweak that? Hang on. If I go down to settings and then handheld settings... Ooh, that's... I'm so sorry. It's so bright. Input control maybe? Joystick calibration. Let's have a look at that. Those diagonals. Oh, that one's kind of annoying. That one feels like it's got more to it than that one. So do I need to calibrate this? No, you know what? Maybe it just... That's not a calibration thing. That legitimately feels like this angle, and this angle have more travel than that one. I wonder if that's a problem with the stick or the software. That one seems pretty good too until you get to... Actually, that might be alright. The right's not so bad. I don't know what I think about that. I'm glad I put that in the video actually. It's not something I actually thought about until I played Resident Evil 4, which seems to have just crashed as I go back to it. Is there another PlayStation 2 game I could have a look here? Actually, I should have a save for Way of the Samurai 2. I talked about this game, Way of the Samurai 1 and 2, in another video, I think. This is a really cool series of games where you kind of just... You're a samurai that wanders into this like new territory, and you can decide how the story goes. You can join different clans, you can be a dickhead, you can decide to do nothing, you can just leave if you want. So it's kind of like this is your playground for like a week in the game, and there's different endings, and it almost has like a roguelike quality to it, as you can lose everything you've lost and start all over again, or you can carry it over to the next playthrough. And yeah, super cool game. I think I've just picked the same location again. I can just kill innocent people if I want. But then like the magistrates will come and be like, hey, what you doing? I can kill them. Oh. Yeah. Yeah, but this game has a super cool combat system. Like, I'm blocking, but if I push or pull a certain way, like I lost there, it's kind of like a rock, paper, scissors kind of thing. But once I get him off balance... Oh no. I can perform like a one-hit kill. Which I'm just not getting. Yeah, I got it. And he's dead. I will say for this game in particular, so I have like a list of settings for different PS2 games that will help get them running better on here. But in this one in particular, I have to go to Advanced. And there is a setting called GPU palette conversion. So for that game, you need to turn that setting on for that game to run really well. And that setting is like never used, but in a couple of games, it just like magically makes them run better. For Way of the Samurai 2, that's what makes it work. So there's a couple of like higher end systems that can play games quite well once you set them up. I'll leave a link to my settings in the description or a video where I've tested them on the Retroid Pocket 3 Plus, because they are the same device, it's just the same specs. But I have a feeling that a lot of people will like this for like more retro kind of games. Dreamcast in particular would be like a really cool one. Let's boot up, for example, Crazy Taxi. Now, Crazy Taxi and this emulator, so once you get your games, so I'm using Redream, and you can't use CDIs in order to use these widescreen patches. They have to be like GDI or compressed to CHD to make them even smaller. But then you can go to Edit Cheats, and it's different on the Dreamcast, isn't it? It's this button. And then you'll have an option here that says widescreen, and you can turn that on, and then you restart your game. And I'm just going to fast forward here for the sake of time. I just realized this game has licensed music as well. And now we can play games like Crazy Taxi on the Dreamcast in perfect widescreen. The analog feels nice in this game as well. Although you don't really need the whole analog for a driving game like this, but for other driving games it's going to feel really cool. It does feel a bit small though. I'm using like this part of my finger to push down on it. I feel like if I use my forefinger, I'd have to move the tip of the finger. I'd have to move my hand around a lot. But the R2, the shoulder buttons feel really good. But I would say that for a particular type of person, I have quite large hands. If you have hands a bit smaller than mine, this would actually feel a lot nicer. You know what, we'll do it with the buttons. Exit, lovely. What else can we have a quick look at? Actually, let's check out PlayStation 1. This uses widescreen as well. You can turn widescreen on in the settings. And if I was to say check out Metal Gear Solid and go to disc 1, I had a little check on this earlier. These are the VR missions. The widescreen is on. So that's really cool. It uses the whole screen. It looks really nice. I love seeing like old PlayStation 1 games use a full 16:9 screen. Because we often forget that they were always in 4:3. But yeah, they look fantastic using a whole screen like this. Can I just do that? I can't do that. And let's have a look at maybe one other PlayStation 1 game in widescreen. I think games like Resident Evil 2 will not work in widescreen because your character will run to the wrong places because the background is not 3D. Let's have a look at... You know, I never look at Syphon Filter. A lot of people have fond memories of Syphon Filter because you can just tase the crap out of someone and burn them to death. You know, who doesn't want to do that? So let's... I used to play this game. I was a big Syphon Filter fan. I don't know if it's a series that should ever come back. It very much feels like a product of its time. I don't know how they could really make it matter again today. But I really like this game when it came out. The demo absolutely sold this game. When you play the demo of the first level, you're like, oh dude, yeah, I want to get this. I think this game also came out around the same time as Metal Gear Solid. I remember having a birthday, and I remember picking up Syphon Filter and Syphon Filter 1 and Metal Gear Solid 1, both secondhand in this shop. And, oh man, what a weekend that was. What a weekend. So how do I have to hold select and then select weapon? Yeah, there's the taser. Here we go. Dude, this game's in widescreen. It's like, this is how I remember it, but this is not what it looked like. There we go, we're gonna burn him. You can hold that forever, for all time. He's just gonna burn and burn and burn. This is when in a video you would do like the fast forward thing. Okay, I'm actually dying, so let's burn him too. Love these games. Syphon Filter 2 was incredible. Love Syphon Filter 2. And Syphon Filter 3 was kind of weird. Ugh, the diagonals on this Dpad do not feel fantastic. I don't like that. Can I use the... I can. I would say overall on this device, the diagonals of everything is not amazing. Oh no! Well, you ran in front of me, man. Mission failed, but okay, it's actually going to quit. So that's on PS1. Let's have a look at one more thing. Maybe something retro. Let's have a look at, say, Super Nintendo. Something nice and cute. You know, I never actually look at Super Mario World. Let's have a... Oh my god, that Star Trek game is terrible. Do not play these Star Trek games. Super Mario World. I'll do. Oh, if I press something, does it? Yeah, it does disappear. So I've set up Retroarch. I've set up some hotkeys here. One thing I like to do is set like a shoulder button as a hotkey. So my right stick, for example, is fast forward, rewind, toggle fast forward, and toggle slow motion. So you can play Super Mario World in widescreen using like B, SNES. There's a certain core that will allow you to play in widescreen. I think there is also a hacked version of Super Mario World which you can play in widescreen, but for the sake of just playing things naturally at the moment, I'm just gonna leave this as it was in 4x3. I do actually, for games in 4x3 that are 2D like this, I do actually kind of like to stretch the screen just like a little bit more, just a little bit more, to use a bit more of the screen, because it doesn't really bother me. But can I turn this up? Love that music, man. If anybody doesn't know, I am Al. I'm a musician, a composer. I've done all kinds of music, and one of the things I did for fun once was rip the music from the SNES version of Super Mario World, and I ended up doing sorry, there's like a delay. I did a cover of Super Mario Galaxy's Gusty Garden Galaxy using Super Mario World instruments. That was really fun. There we go. Yeah, now I'm a pro gamer. Yeah, I don't know. I don't love this D-pad. I feel it's very tight. So I wouldn't think to myself like, "Ooh, I'm gonna love like playing lots of 2D platformers on this." I suppose that's what the concept of this device. I love the idea behind it. I really love the idea of slamming this down, put it in my pocket. I go, "Ooh, I want to play some platformers wherever I am," and I know that I don't have to put this in a case or anything like that, because the clam is the case, unless you really want to be protective of the case as well, because some people are. I'm more protective of the screen, to be honest. But yeah, this is the Retroid Pocket Flip. I think a lot of people are going to like this. If you want something for performance, I would probably say get the Retroid Pocket 3 Plus instead. I think that is a more functional device. Maybe people who want this aren't going to have the same problems I have, but you could tell from like the start of the video that I was fairly passionate about why I did not like some things about this. But I've watched some other videos of people receiving their devices recently, and they all seem to glam it up quite nicely, like say really good things about it. But I picked this up and I did not feel the same way, so I wanted to give my 2 cents about this device as well. So yeah, I will leave you with that. So the design of this device is not one I'm super happy with, but the performance of the device is the Retroid Pocket 3 Plus, and that value for money, that is super good. So if you're someone that can like look past some of the flaws, or what I think are flaws, what you have here is a really good device for the price, actually. And that's all I have to say about that. So yeah, that was my review of the Retroid Pocket Flip. If you liked it, please give me a like, subscribe, hit that bell icon if you want to see more videos from me soon. I'm really hoping next month that I'll finally get the AYN Loki. Is it AYN? It is AYN. This is when everybody's laughing. They're like, "You are never going to get the Loki." The Loki is coming. I don't know if it's worth it, but it's coming. So thank you very much. Have a good day. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.